Thank you. Yes, for 23 years, it's been my profession to make people laugh. And I've always encouraged others when faced with adversity to stay positive and look for the humor. In spring of 2013, the time came for me to put my money where my mouth was when I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I stress ovarian because the breasts get all the glory. And don't get me wrong, I have breasts. And I have friends and family who've had breast cancer, so I desperately want to find a cure. But every once in a while, my ovaries would like to get a little attention. Yeah, but who am I kidding? The breasts have always gotten the glory. Never heard anyone say, nice set of ovaries. But regardless what color the cancer ribbon is, the journey is the same. Mine began one night when all of a sudden I started having shooting pains in my abdomen. The cramps were very severe and lasted for about 30 minutes. I almost went to the emergency room, but instead I did what most people would do. I went to WebMD and diagnosed myself with IBS. My annual exam was coming up, so I saw no reason to rush in any sooner. Who hasn't had cramps? And I honestly didn't think any more about it. 6 weeks later, when my appointment rolled around, I didn't expect my routine checkup to be anything other than routine. The nurse practitioner was examining me, and we were laughing and joking about getting older, when all of a sudden she got to my abdomen, and all the blood drained out of her face, and she said, "You have a huge mass." She said, "Didn't you feel that?" I said, "Well, I knew that it didn't matter what I did, I couldn't get rid of my stomach. But I thought it was just weight I'd gained from menopause." She said, "That's not fat." She said, "That is a mass." I said, "Well, you better check back here because I can't get rid of that either." She immediately sent me for an ultrasound and a sonogram, which didn't tell us anything new, just that it was indeed huge. They thought it might be attached to the right ovary, but couldn't be sure. She then ordered a CT scan and a CA-125 blood test. CA-125 measures inflammation in the body, and it can be a marker for ovarian cancer. This, of course, happens on a Friday afternoon, so I couldn't get the CAT scan or the results from the blood test back until the following week. I had a show the next night in Hickory, North Carolina, and the last thing I was going to do was sit at home and worry, so I got in my car and I headed to Hickory. And driving up there, my mind was racing, and apparently so was my car, because I was pulled over for speeding. And the officer said I was going 70 in a 55. I said, "Sir, I'm really sorry, but I need a break. I just found out that I have a tumor the size of your head." His eyes got big, and I said, "I'm not kidding. It's huge." I said, "I don't mean to imply that your head is huge. It's perfect for a head, but to be growing in my abdomen, not so good." He goes, "I'll just give you a warning." I said, "I think that would be best." My friends go, "Already playing the cancer card." That following Monday, I went for a CAT scan. And as I was leaving the imaging center, the technician who did the scan goes, "Good luck." I said, "Really?" The next day, I met with my oncologist to go over the radiology report. And again, it didn't tell us anything new, just that it was massive. He also had the results of my CA-125 blood test. Normal range is 0 to 35. Mine came back at 11,000. He said he was 98% sure that it was cancer. And if that wasn't bad enough, the radiology report went on to say that my pancreas was unremarkable. Which I was very offended by. Yes, my ovaries let me down, but I've been extremely pleased with my pancreas. We scheduled surgery for the following week. There was no reason to biopsy because regardless, this large obstruction had to be removed. And he then talked to me and stressed the importance of keeping a positive attitude. Said it was as important to my recovery as surgery and chemotherapy. Of course, I've always believed in the benefits of not only staying positive, but also surrounding yourself with other people who are. Because negativity is its own disease, and it afflicts everyone around it. And carrying around negative feelings and emotions, I mean, it'll just eat you alive. That's why I never harbor any ill will. It doesn't matter what happens, I forgive and forget. Actually, I just forget, but it's the same. The same health benefits. My doctor then had me sign a release form granting him permission to put a port directly into my abdomen if he deemed it necessary once he opened me up and was able to stage the cancer. I said, stage the cancer? You're starting to sound like this could be serious. And it honestly was the first time it hit me, okay, this is no joke. And that's when I first felt fear. And what scared me the most was not if it was cancer, but whether or not it was feasting on my body. And that night before surgery was intense. Just imagining all the possible scenarios and the anticipation of what the next day would bring. You know, and what will the doctor find? What stage will it be? How did I not realize something was wrong? I should have gone to the emergency room when I had those cramps. This continuous loop of defeating thoughts just kept playing in my head. It was actually a relief when morning finally came and it was time to go. My college roommate was a nurse anesthetist who put me to sleep. And I suddenly became extremely grateful that while I was goofing off in college, she was studying. And I asked her, I said, is it hard putting people to sleep? And she said, oh, no. She said, it's easy. I said, waking you up. There's the hard part. But it was great having her there because she later gave me a play-by-play of how it all went down. She said she'd given me enough anesthesia for a 4-hour surgery because that's what my doctor anticipated. And that he diagrammed me from breastbone to pelvic bone and across. But when he made that first vertical cut, my right ovary came flying out the size of a cantaloupe. And then my left ovary popped out the size of a grapefruit. Turns out my muffin top was a fruit salad. And I travel all the time, which means I go through those x-ray machines at airport security a lot. Don't you think that at some point a TSA agent would have pulled me aside? I don't see a bomb, but you're packing a fruit stand, lady. Call your doctor. But people still say to me, I can't believe you didn't have more symptoms. And looking back, I did have symptoms. I was tired, bloated, and I constantly had to go to the bathroom. I mean, just always felt like I could never empty my bladder. And, you know, that, of course, describes every menopausal woman I know. And that's what's so difficult about detecting ovarian cancer, is that the symptoms mask themselves as other issues. But I was extremely fortunate because the cancer was contained to my ovaries. And, you know, but everyone, because they were so large and they were just kind of mushed together, is why everyone just kept thinking it was one large mass. And by the way, mushed together is a medical term that used to describe what was going on up in here. But I started chemo 4 weeks after my surgery. And people would comment during my treatment that I was battling cancer. And I said, oh no, my doctor took the cancer. I'm battling chemo. And it is not for sissies. In fact, I sent a letter to the head of Homeland Security. It said, the next time you're interrogating a terrorist, forget waterboarding, give him around to chemo. Check on him in about 3 days. He'll take you to his leader. But I had one treatment every 3 weeks, and days 3 through 10 were always the hardest. And on the days when I felt my worst, my friend Christy would put on Kelly Clarkson, What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger, and we would get up and we would dance. Now, when I say I danced, I mean that I shuffled around the room. I certainly don't want to give the impression that I twerked my way through chemo. Or that I was hooked to the IV going, watch me drip, watch me nay-nay, watch me drip, drip, watch me nay-nay. Didn't have that in me. But just hearing that music and getting up and moving what little I could, it always made me feel better. And I learned that even when your body is weak, your spirit can be strong. And it made those difficult days just a little more manageable. I also learned that chemo brain is real. About 3 months after I finished my treatment, I was on my way out of town. I pulled up to the drive-thru of SunTrust Bank, and the teller said, "How may I help you?" And I said, "I need to pick up my prescription." And the second it came out of my mouth, I realized where I was. And I said, "And I was wondering if you'd run down to Walgreens to get it for me." Let's just see how good your customer service is. And another time I was digging through my purse, looking for my cell phone while I was talking on it. I can't find my phone. I don't know what I've done with my phone. My friend goes, "Well, just talk to me on this one till you find it." But cancer has taught me so much, like never order a wig on the internet. I ordered the Jamie Lee Curtis Pixie, and what they sent me made me look like Joe Pesci from My Cousin Vinny. But right after I lost my hair, some friends were having a get-together, and I was going to go, and I was getting ready, and I couldn't get anything to look right. I mean, that wig was terrible, and I put on a baseball cap, and that made me look like Ernest T. Bass. And I see other cancer patients tie a scarf around their head and look like a fashion model. But when I did it, people asked me to read their palms. I mean, nothing worked. And I sat down and I cried and I didn't want to go. And a friend reminded me that your spirit shines through your smile, not your hair. And, you know, that really hit home because that was the kind of thing that I would say to someone else. And that's when I realized that it was time for me to walk the walk. And I let go. I let go of my attachment to my hair. And instead of seeing myself as a cancer patient, I started seeing myself as a victor over cancer. It was the chemo games, and I was the Mockingjay. I want people to know that I'm alive and that we are at war. Hospitals are filled with men, women, and children, and we must fight back. I have a message for cancer. You can attack our bodies, but you will not destroy our spirit. We will fight you until we can cure you, and we will survive. Okay, so it wasn't exactly Katniss, but I did change my mindset. And whether it's cancer or something else, seeing yourself as a victor instead of a victim will change your experience. The next time I saw my doctor after I lost my hair, he said, "Oh, good." He said, "That lets me know it's working." So my bald head became a symbol of my fight, a battle scar, and I wore it loud and proud. Of course, the very last hair to fall off my body was Gladys, my devoted chin hair. And when I finished my treatment and my hair started coming back, guess who was first back on the scene? Cancer also taught me to live every day as if it's my last. Of course, that upsets my family because every day I call them and say goodbye. I'll miss you. But if there is such a thing as an upside to cancer, is that it puts things in perspective, and you realize what's really important, which is how we treat each other. I have a friend who works at a nursing home, and she told me a story about 3 ladies, all well into their 80s, who lived there. They've known each other their entire lives, but for 40 years they didn't speak because of religious and political differences. Now they sit around the nursing home and they laugh and tell stories and play games and just love each other. They're best friends. I truly feel blessed that cancer came calling and forced me to face my mortality and gave me the opportunity to assess my life before I was in my 80s and realize that loving, laughing, lifting each other up, that's what matters. People waste so much time and energy focusing on where our lives separate rather than where they connect. Race shouldn't separate us because we're all part of the human race. Which side of the political aisle we sit on shouldn't come between us because we're all Americans. And you don't have to be fighting in the Middle East to be waging a war against people who don't believe the way you do. That's happening here. Race, religion, money, politics, gender, sexuality, those are the things that separate us. Let people be who they are, as long as their heart's in the right place. It's uncertain what lies beyond our time on earth, but one thing I do feel pretty sure about: no one will be left out of heaven because they didn't hate enough. We can't lose our humanity. Let's choose to be kind and show compassion and focus on where our lives connect. There's a great lyric in the song Closer to Love that says, "We're all one phone call from our knees." Life can change in an instant. It's way too short not to celebrate it and to surround ourselves with love and laughter. I want to leave you today by saying that if you are ever faced with this terrible disease, always remember that your spirit shines through your smile, not your hair. And even when your body is weak, your spirit can be strong. And whatever you do, never, ever, ever order a wig on the internet. Thank you so much.